Everybody, I hope you're having a lovely Friday and that you've got some lovely plans for the weekend. Anyway, so as you know, I did a live the other night on Wednesday night, and I was supposed to be sharing a PowerPoint. Okay, so this is my video now. My recorded video to show you the PowerPoint, okay, instead of just watching me speak. Okay, so then you can see everything very clearly, you can read everything perfectly. Okay, so let's get started. So it's the same topic as last time. Okay, so arguments and disagreements. So let's get that up. I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Right. Okay, so arguments and disagreements. Okay, so talking all things arguments and disagreements, phrasal verbs, idioms, etc. So we are starting off with the idioms. Okay, so like I said in the previous classes, at odds with someone. Okay, Sam is at odds. To be at odds with somebody, it means to be in disagreement with somebody, right? So here's the example. Sam is at odds with his father. Sam is in disagreement with his father. Right, next one, out of the question. Okay, so that's out of the question. It's not up for consideration. So here's the example. Buying a new car is out of the question. We simply can't afford it. Okay, and that doesn't have to be relevant to money either. So it could be, for example, something you don't like. Okay, so you don't like, I don't know, you don't like to eat Italian food or Chinese food or whatever. And you say, for example, Chinese food is out of the question for me because I don't like it. Or maybe you have, maybe you're lactose intolerant or something like that. And you can say, well, milk is out of the question for me because I am not allowed to take milk. All right. It can be for many, many things. All right. Moving on. Over my dead body. Okay. So this one, maybe you've come across. It's very, very popular, very dramatic. You know, the explanation really gives it away. The example. Mum, can I get my nose pierced over my dead body? Okay, absolutely no way. It's not going to happen. And last, hanging by a thin thread. Okay, a thread. So hanging by a thin thread, a thread. If you don't know what a thread is, this is a thread. Okay, the thread there, and just had that on hand. Okay. So the example, be late again to work and you'll be hanging by a very thin thread. Okay, so it's a warning, okay, in this case. So if you're very close to failure. So if he's going to be late for his work, then he's been given a warning that he could be at risk of losing his job. Send someone packing. Okay, to send somebody packing, that means to tell somebody to leave. Okay, like unpacking, like almost, so packing your bag. Okay, but obviously nobody's packing their bag here. It's just an expression, remember. Okay, so send someone packing, you ask somebody to leave. Okay, and not in a friendly way. Let's read the example. After they discovered he had been embezzling money, they sent him packing. Okay. For those who do not know what embezzling is, embezzling means when somebody illegally steals money from a company over a long period of time. Okay, so that's stealing money over a long period of time. Next, shouting match. Okay, a shouting match, as you can imagine, it's a very loud argument. Okay, shout, so shouting match. Okay, very loud argument. An example, they were banned from the library after their shouting match. Okay, so great example, because obviously you're not allowed to you're not allowed to speak in the library. Okay, so obviously if you have a loud argument in the middle of the library, then obviously you are probably going to be asked to never come back. So that's the word banned here. So that's the key here, banned, when somebody is forbidden to return to that place. Moving on, sit on the fence. Okay, so sit on the fence means to be absolutely neutral in an argument. So you are not choosing any sides. So you're not agreeing and you're not disagreeing. Okay. Example, stop being a people pleaser. You can't always sit on the fence. Next, skating on thin ice. Okay, so to cause disagreement or trouble. Okay, to cause a bad consequence. Right, so the example, don't you dare mention the divorce during dinner, or you could be skating on thin ice. Okay, so in this case, the divorce is a sensitive topic, and so it could provoke a fight at the dinner. Following, pick a fight. Okay, pick a fight means to provoke a fight. So somebody who tries to provoke a fight, an argument. The example, you are always seeking an opportunity to pick a fight. Okay, so very straightforward. And next one, water under the bridge. Okay, so that's when you have a problem in the past, and now it's not important now. Okay, so that's a problem in the past, and now it is not important. Okay, so the example, they were enemies for a very long time after an incident, but that's water under the bridge now. Okay, so they were enemies for a very long time after an incident, but that's water under the bridge now. Moving on, wipe the slate clean. Okay, so that means to start over again. Okay, to start new. Yep, so maybe you've had an argument with somebody and you want to fix it and you want to be on good terms again with that person. So we say wipe the slate clean. Okay, so we try to forget about all our arguments or our insults or etc. in the past and try to start over again. Lastly, split hairs. Okay, so split hairs is to argue over very pathetic things. Okay, so silly things. Split hairs, you pay too much attention to minor differences, okay, that are not important. So here's the example. If you are going to start splitting hairs again, I will not talk to you. Okay, now phrasal verbs. Fall out. Okay, so fall out. I'll give you a few seconds to see if you can match that one up. Okay, so to fall out is to have an argument with someone which causes to damage a relationship. Okay, so we haven't talked since our fallout. Clash, sorry, I didn't even give you a chance to check that one. Anyway, clash with individuals that conflict with each other on a regular basis. Okay, so imagine that you have two people with two very different personalities and they're always clashing with each other. They're always having discussions with each other. They're clashing with each other. Okay, so here's an example. Our house is always mad. The kids are always clashing with each other. Okay, and the next one, grow up, behave as an adult, not a child. Okay, so you're asking somebody to be more mature in a situation. So we tell them to grow up. It's time for you to grow up and ask your, act your age. Excuse me. You are not a teenager anymore. Last, rip into. Okay, so that's the last one. Attack someone violently with words or blows. Okay, blows are insults. Okay, blows are insults. And if you ever see this, just give me a moment. You ever see this ever, a low blow, that means it's an unfair comment, insult. Okay, so a low blow is an unfair comment, insult. Okay, so maybe there's something about you that you cannot control and somebody insults you for that, and we would say that's a low blow. Okay, so generally a low blow is very bad insults because it's not fair. All right, so let's move on from there. Just going to get rid of that so we can to the next. Okay, the next one is lay into. Okay, so lay into is pretty much exactly the same as rip into. Okay, so that is to scold or criticize someone harshly. Okay, it's the same thing, to insult somebody. Lay into, rip into. So here it says scold or criticize someone harshly. Okay, harshly, very, very badly. Yes, scold or criticize someone very, very badly. Oh, well, let me give you an example. So it's the same way. So the example I'm going to give you is the same way you can use rip into as well. But rip, if you want to do ripped, sorry, if you want to do rip into in the past, it needs a double P. Okay, so ripped into, like this. The man ripped into his workmate. Okay, and then it's the same thing for lay into. So the man laid into his workmate. Okay, so the man criticized his workmate very harshly, okay, very badly. Right, next one here, lash out. So lash out, attack someone or something verbally. Okay, so this can be physical and verbally. Okay, to lash out. Okay, here we have an example. So he wanted to lash out at the man who jumped the queue. Okay, he wanted to lash out at the man who jumped the queue. Jumped the queue means when somebody cuts into the queue without permission. Okay, so say you're standing in a queue and somebody else comes along and they just stand in front of you, even though they were not in the queue previously. So that we say jumped the queue or cut the line. Okay, it's more common in American to say cut the line, but in British English, jumped the queue. Next, flare up. Okay, so flare up, a sudden outburst of something, especially violence or hostility. Okay, so a flare up is something very sudden. Okay, it's very sudden. It happens very quickly. So here's an example. To reduce anxiety, take regular exercise. Try and avoid any factors that you know that can cause a flare-up. Okay. So if you can imagine an anxiety attack, yeah, that it happened very suddenly, yeah, and so this is a very good example of, we can say it's a flare-up, yeah. Instead of saying the woman had an anxiety attack, we could probably say the woman had a flare-up. Okay, so she couldn't control her anxiety, for example. Last, back down, to admit that you were wrong. They refused to back down because they refused to admit that they were wrong. Moving on, boil over. Okay, so boil over. Oh, we need to get rid of those examples to confuse anybody. Right. Boil over. So So boil, with the water, you put a pot of water on the stove, the water comes to a boil, and then, well, in fact, it's a great example. So it boils up, it goes out of the container, and then it's not controllable. Okay, so that one is reach a state of such intensity that it can no longer be controlled or contained. Okay, just like as if you were cooking, the water is bubbling and it boils over the pot. It's not containable and it's not controlled. Okay, her temple could boil over in any minute. Okay. Next, blurt out, to say something suddenly without thinking of the results. Okay, to say something accidentally. So let's have a look at that example. His friend blurted out a secret when he was drunk. Okay, so he was drunk, he was under the influence of alcohol, he wasn't thinking, and he blurted out a secret. He said a secret on accident. Bite back, to attack or criticize someone after being attacked or criticized. Don't stand there and do nothing, bite back. Okay, insult somebody back. We say bite back. Don't stand there, do nothing, bite back. And lastly, rise above, to not allow oneself to be hurt or controlled by. Okay, so rise above is something what mature people do. Okay, to rise above something. For example, she chose to rise above their silly comments. Okay, so it's basically not reacting. Okay, so rise above is not reacting to an argument or insults, etc. Okay, you are being a mature person and you move on with your life. All right, so that is all. So we've gone through the idioms and the phrasal verb. So I hope that this is a lot more clearer for you all. And I would love to know what you all think. Don't be afraid to drop us a comment anytime. Drop us a message if you are interested in our classes, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Okay. All right, then I'm going to check off now. I'm going to stop sharing.